Welcome back to the MMA Plug, presented to you by DifferentSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. I'm your host, Jordan Kurt, sitting here alongside UFC middleweight, the Big Yin's Josh Fremd. Give him a follow at Josh Fremd MMA. Give me a follow at Comments from the Peanut Gallery. If you are watching along online, let us know what you think of this weekend's upcoming UFC card or any of the Fury, LFA, Colorado Combat Club, any of the fight cards that our Colorado fighters are in action on this weekend. Let us know what you think on the Go Fast Energy Drink hotline and text line at 303-831-1340. But this weekend, we have a main event matchup that is a showcase of female flyweights. Now, the original main event for this card has been shuffled a couple of times, but the first scheduled bout was the Cheeto and Sandhagen fight. That is obviously, that's been since moved to a venue that will see a crowd. But this fight was originally scheduled to have new light. We have something that we'll share just in a moment because of the IV situation going on. This is directly from the Golden Snitch himself, folks. We'll get into that.
Hey, wait a minute.
What's up, bro?
Continue. Never mind.
But yeah, so moving along with this, we have a main event matchup that is Erin Blanchfield, a number 10 ranked 23-year-old prospect who is on the rise, being fast-tracked right now, taking on the mauler, the number 3 contender, Jessica Andrade. Now, Andrade is here with a quick turnaround. This is a short notice fill-in for Taila Santos after she just tenderized Lauren Murphy's face like a cheap steak a couple of weeks ago back at UFC 283 down in Brazil. Now, either way, the stage was set for Blanchfield to take a massive step up in competition. Taila Santos is the number 1 contender, whereas Jessica Andrade is the number 3. So either way, it's a very stiff test for that young competitor. A win over Andrade certainly puts Blanchfield in the title contender discussion, but she's going to have to go through a damn buzzsaw to be able to do it. I mean, Jessica Andrade is a flat-out mauler. There's no better way to describe her style as other than she just goes out there and mauls people.
Buzzsaw.
Yeah, she's a buzzsaw. Erin is a legit blue-chip type of prospect with an extremely high ceiling. But, Josh, I'll be honest, I can't help but wonder and ask the question, is Andrade too much too soon? Andrade has the brute type of style and raw power that will have you walking out of the cage looking like a Picasso painting. So is that something that we might be giving a young, dare I say, potential future of the division type of fighter? Are we giving her too tall of a task against someone who can deliver the type of beating that might alter the trajectory of her future?
I like the way you worded that question. And as if we're looking at it from different perspectives here, I think from the perspective that you're looking at, I think that is definitely a nerve-wracking thing because you obviously want to build up contenders. You want to build them up to where they have their own like brand and characterisms and everything that could make them a draw. But if you look at it from the hurt business, I mean, this is a proving ground. This is a prove-it business pretty much, like, oh, I think I could beat you or something like that along those lines. And this is Erin Blanchfield's chance to, all right, I can prove that I'm in the top dogs of this fight game. And it's kind of good timing because if Jessica's just coming off her fight, very recent, her hands might still hurt. What's the weight cut going to be like? What kind of training were you doing because after you have a fight, especially a long fight, you got to take some time off. You don't just jump right back into the gym. Even if you got a clean knockout or anything, like you take some time off because it's the training camp where you incur most of the damage.
But the counter to that could also be, though, that she's still in that good a shape because the fight was just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that is a good counterpoint.
That it wasn't enough time down or away for her to have really dissipated some of that conditioning and whatnot.
No, and I agree. That is a great point to think of. So
but I just look at it from when we're looking at the division overall, though, Josh. Like, I think that there were other matchups for her on the way to this. And granted, I think that Taila was a better matchup for her than Jessica is.
But wasn't it Blanchfield's opponent fell out?
Yeah, Tyler
So
Santos
you
had
just
visa
had to get
issues.
someone to say yes.
Right.
And I'm sure they asked a bunch of people. I'm sure Andrade was not the first person they asked because she just fought. But you got to fight who says yes. In this country, if you fight someone who doesn't want to fight you, it's called assault, brother.
I mean, yeah.
So it's only two willing participants to agree upon mutual combat for a fight. And Jessica said yes.
Yeah, which I mean, again, fair point, but it's I guess you're 100% correct, and I'm looking at it macro level from the business or from the promotion side of things. Of if you have someone who you think you see something in who has that future, is that the right move right then and there for her?
I agree, but if they thought it wasn't, I mean, I'm sure Erin needs to fight
Because
that's how you make your money. You fight. So she's
Agreed.
probably like, yeah, find me someone.
But my counter to that is Aspen Ladd. Aspen Ladd was
yeah.
in a similar position, was a young prospect who was very highly thought of, was being fast-tracked in her own sense at bantamweight back then at the time. She goes in there, but I will counter that Aspen did have her weight cut woes all along.
She did, yeah.
But she goes in there against the Iron Lady and Jermaine Durandamy, and Jermaine knocked her out immediately in the first round, and Aspen has never been the same overall. She's still a good fighter, but she's never been that same type of threat the way that she was prior to the GDR fight.
Sometimes getting hit that hard changes people, and you're not as willing to go into the fire like that.
My point exactly. So, I think that there's obviously many of examples that you can point to out there that, hey, this might be a bad idea, but then on the flip side, you have some of those who can answer the billing, who can rise to the equation. Maybe she is the epitome of this new generation of fighters that we've discussed ad nauseum on this program alone, of people who they are that young and they are that damn good.
And they're that good.
So I don't know. I think it's just an interesting one to keep our eyes on there. In the co-main event, we have Zac Pauga taking on the Beverly Hills Ninja Jordan Wright. We have Zac Pauga, who is the Tough 30 finalist, former NFL and pro rugby player. He is an alumni of the Colorado State Rams. And again, like as mentioned, he's out of Elevation Fight Team, and he is making his UFC debut here at 205. He fought up a weight class on Tough. But prior to that point, if you look at his record, everything else in his pro career has been at that light heavyweight margin. Does have a win over UFC veteran Marcus Perez on a Cage Warriors card down on the regional scene. I think that this is a great matchup for Zac, who is the larger human overall. Jordan was chinny at 185. He's a killer be killed type of style, never even been to the third round. He had issues with the power of a lot of his opponents at middleweight, so moving up to 205, I think that he's either going to have a lot more of a chin since he didn't have to cut the extra 20 pounds, or he's going to have even more issues dealing with the power coming from the real big boys.
Yeah, I mean, this is the UFC is not doing him any favors having him fight Zac with his chin issues. And I think that this is going to be a great showing for Zac Pauga. I'm really excited for this matchup. I mean, stylistically, it's going to be the Beverly Hills Ninja, which stupid nickname, but whatever. I think he's going to be trying to keep his distance, do his flashy little taekwondo kicks, and then Zac is just going to have to be smart and get in when you fit in,
Yeah, I think the name of the game for Zac isn't a secret now at this point. He's going to get in. He's going to close the distance. He's going to put a body on him, push his back up against the fence, and he's going to grind him out. I think Zac has talked about it in a couple of interviews. He talked about it at Media Day today. He said, I'm not really going to be too secretive about this. Can you stop it?
Yeah.
And that's on the flip side. We mentioned that Jordan is going up. Zac was naturally walking around. He walks around at like 245, 246. and did essentially the whole last year as a heavyweight with Tough and then fighting in the finale, and then is now coming back down. That's a big man
It's a big dude.
who is professional level strength in both, as we mentioned, rugby strength earlier with Volk, but he's a big boy who is a pro rugby guy, along with being an NFL caliber football player, D1 football player. That's athlete. That's total athlete strength all across the board
That's what you would call athletic
with an F.
with a PH.
Couple of knuckleheads over here, folks. I tell you, a couple of knuckleheads between the two of us. But Josh, there's a few other fights on this card that are certainly worth watching and tuning in for. What do you have your eyes on?
Ooh. There's a couple that I've been looking at that I'm pretty excited about. I don't want to give the one away, even though I'm mad that you took it, but I'll let you have it because you'll do it much better justice than I will. I'm excited to see. Got Clayton Carpenter making his UFC debut. How pumped is that? I'm excited for that one. AJ Fletcher back on the card. I'm ready to see a Louisiana boy get back after it, you know? And then also Ovince Prue versus Philip Lins. I think that is an exciting matchup, depending on which OSP we get. I think that's a good matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, it is fair to mention that OSP is coming off of a win.
He is. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
A win in his last fight. He's a friend of the program.
He is a friend of the program. OSP, my friend. I'm nothing by it. I'm just saying that I think that if we get the OSP that we all know and love, it's going to be a great night.
Oh, man, that's going to be a great gift to be able to have for social media right there. Clip that one. Clip it. But, yeah, I think that matchup with AJ is going to be great because Themba is, he's a very highly clouded prospect who is bringing an entire continent of viewership behind him. So that's going to be an interesting one to see there. AJ is filling in on short notice, so be intriguing to see how he comes in because he's a thick boy.
He's a solid dude.
I mean, a solid, just country strong out of the backwoods of Louisiana type of strong kid.
And you would never guess a Louisiana country boy to be able to do the splits the way this dude does. It's crazy when you're trying to athlete, just a freak of nature athlete.
Definitely. But I think that another fight that is one that it came together on short notice, but is one that is a mix of one of the most widely recognized veterans in the lightweight division and one against one of the more polarizing figures, but also widely recognized, who is coming back to the lightweight division. You have Jim Miller taking on Alex Hernandez. Alex obviously is one of our boys. He's a friend of the show, teammate, coach, professor, so on and so forth. This is a short notice opportunity that he's stepping in to face the legend in Jim Miller. Jim Miller is a guy who has been fighting for longer than most of us even realized what professional MMA was. And that's a slight exaggeration, but that's to go on and give you an idea of the experience and the amount of fights that Jim Miller has had, not just within the UFC, but total. Jim and Dan Miller are also staples in the New Jersey jiu-jitsu community. Jim Miller is a guy who, ever since he got the Lyme disease diagnosis figured out, he's a big hunter, got it from deer hunting originally back at one point, but he's been on a little bit of a run now toward the end of his career. He has aspirations of being able to make it as long as fighting on UFC 300, which now is within arm's reach. He's the only guy, if that would have been if he makes it to that point, to have fought on UFC 100, 200, and 300. Again, that just goes to show you the volume of experience that Jim Miller brings to the equation. But stepping in there against him is a guy who has nothing to lose, a guy who has no pressure on him, a guy who can come in there and just fight free. Someone who didn't have to worry about the pressures of a 12 to 14 week fight camp with an immense buildup and an extreme weight cut. someone who is going in there and can just be free and try to be him and get his mojo back. That is Alexander Hernandez. He talked a lot about the mental turmoil and the ups and downs of the process that he's gone through the last couple of fights at his media day. I encourage you all to go out there and check out that interview just so you get a real firsthand account of that journey. But it's a very good matchup, I feel like, for Alex to be able to go out there and shock the world, for that matter. I think that Jim Miller is a good matchup for him in the sense that Jim Miller is not an overwhelming figure or presence in terms of size as a lightweight. It's not like he'd be going back in there against somebody like Islam, who is a really big and long 55er, or the way that Nate used to be as a super long, like 6'6", 155er. It's not like he's dealing with those type of dimensions. He's dealing with someone who is going to be somewhat equitable as far as their size, their height, their distance, all of that, or their dimensions, I should say.
Rebel without a cause. That's what we got this week, and I'm excited to see the Great Eight back in there. And, I think that, like you said, if you guys get a chance, go listen to his media day, because anytime that Alex Hernandez speaks, you want to listen, because the guy is very intelligent and he's very thoughtful when it comes to everything in life. But when you listen to him about the fight game, he's very thoughtful and insightful. I am excited, because I think that we're going to get a version of Alex Hernandez that we have yet not seen. And it's going to be one that's going to be, they've all been exciting, but I think this one's going to be a one to remember.
Definitely. And then the other battle that is one that I know everybody's going to have their eyes on, it's William Knight versus the Scale.
Hey,
mind you, William Knight, for a light heavyweight bout, supposed to make weight at 206, his last scheduled bout at light heavyweight, he stepped on the scales at 218. He then, in his next fight, fought at heavyweight. Normally, again, mind you, fights at 206 pounds, 205 with the 1 pound allowance. Weighed in at over 250 pounds for that heavyweight fight. So, this man is going to have a big battle with the Scale. Let's see how that one shakes up. That wraps up our UFC Vegas preview segment. Stick around after the break, folks. We're going to be running the board in Colorado MMA and closing out the show by going 3 rounds. This is the MMA Plug presented to you by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio. Thank you so much for watching. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. That helps us continue to produce this original MMA content and bring it for you every single week. Tune in to the MMA Plug presented by DenverSportsBetting.com on 98.1 FM, Mile High Sports Radio on Wednesday nights from 6 to 7 p.m. or live stream at DenverSportsBetting.com/radio.